Hello guys, Niffler here and welcome to my new Permastun Groundslamm guide for the Awakening. Enjoy! The goal of this build was to create a solid character for the start of the new warbands league with low gear cost, fast leveling speed and a high survivability. A low gear cost with fast clear speed is achieved by playing a straightforward, life-based character, sparing out crit and therefore utilizing on the high base DPS of two-handed weapons. The key for high survivability is to compensate the basic weaknesses of your build design. For a two-handed weapon user, DPS should be no problem, with the price of being melee and of course losing the shield slot together with the ability to block attacks. To compensate the melee factor, I focused on stacking increased area of effect, both from passives and gear. For the missing defense, I decided to try a stun-oriented build. As long as I'm able to perma-stun the screen and especially nasty bosses, the incoming damage will be minimized. The weapon type of choice was now pretty easy to spot, as maces have a nice combination of AoE, stun and damage clusters in the passive tree, as well as the perfect implicit mods. Especially the new Marauder base with 6% increased area of effect implicit was promising. The final choice was on my future main attack skill. I considered two options, Groundslamm and the new Ice Crash skill. The base damage effectiveness of Ice Crash is simply amazing, and that's also why I used it to level from 28 till around Merciless. But I finally decided to play Groundslamm for its overall better damage effectiveness with high area of effect, as Ice Crash deals less damage on the other side, so to actually apply my super high tooltip DPS, one had to pretty much go ham, and the increased AoE was not helping much. The second deciding factor was the 25% stun threshold reduction inbound into Groundslamm, fitting perfectly into a stun-oriented build design. Starting from the Marauder, one has two options, going for melee damage or increased life and armor in the early levels. I picked up damage as I'm playing warbands, but in a hardcore league I'd probably start with life. But regardless what you choose, pick up Heart of the Warrior, Born to Fight, Butchery and Barbarism on your way to Resolute Technique. Always hit will increase your DPS significantly, for accuracy is no longer a factor, and as we never plan to go for crit anyways, there's also no real downside. Next, I was heading to Unwavering Stance, adding great survivability. Being stun immune helps a lot, as stun is one big factor of ripping, especially in early levels. Evasion doesn't matter as we plan to convert 100% to armor, so no downside as well. Before progressing further, downside to the duelist area, I picked up the AoE nodes in the Templar area. Increased AoE will not only boost your clear speed, but also add survivability with increasing the distance between you and the monsters. Get Constitution next as the best life node in the tree, before finally getting down to the duelist area again. Here we have multiple options. First you wanna decide if you link Fortify to your main skill. If so, skilling Rampart is a no-brainer, but for myself I decided to link Stun instead. 100% reduced damage taken from all the stunned monsters is better than 25% reduction from Fortify, right? The next option is picking up Iron Reflexes. With only 2 points investments, this might be worth a lot, when you're planning to use hybrid gear and of course Grace for additional armor. As I'm currently only using pure armor gear, I haven't picked it up, which might change later. The rest is pretty standard, filling out all effective damage and life nodes. As you can see, this passive tree is super effective, almost no points spent on traveling and no trade-offs needed. The stun theme in our build has only 3 points investment over here, with stun mastery. The rest are just good DPS mace nodes with the bonus of even more free stun threshold reduction and stun duration. For bandits I'm helping Oak Normal for bonus life, Kraton Cruel for 8% attack speed and Merciless Kraton as frenzy charges are currently overpowered with the 4% more damage multiplier per charge. Our main skill, Groundslamm, is linked with melee physical damage and multi-strike for maximum DPS. Blood magic is needed in order to sustain the cost with 100% mana reserved. The fifth link is stun, unusual choice, but this enables us to perma-stun everything, trivializing bosses and hard map mods. The sixth link, here inbound in my ARQ, is increased area of effect. More AoE equals and better clear speed and allows us to disable half the screen with perma-stun. For heavy boss fights one could swap in concentrated effect for bonus DPS once you're using a real 6 link. For movement, I use Leap Slam, linked with faster attacks, blood magic and Fortify. The Fortify is a nice bonus when you got a spare falling. The other option would have been Endurance Charge or Melee Stun. Use whatever you prefer. The auras and buffs I'm using are standard Hatred and Herald of Ash for bonus DPS, and with the changes to Arctic Armor to a flat 25% mana reservation, this is a nice defensive boost as we're taking less damage while standing still. Whenever we attack with multi-strike Groundslam, we're standing still and are also most likely to get hit. The other option would have been using Grace, instead of Herald of Ash and Arctic Armor. With Iron Reflexes, a level 20 Grace is providing an additional 2000 base armor, resulting in bonus physical damage reduction even while you're moving. Last but not least, I'm using Blood Rage with increased duration. The change from chaos to physical damage over time makes this one easy to sustain now, providing bonus attack speed, a life leech and most important 25% chance to gain a frenzy charge on kill. With 5 frenzy charges up, we gain 20% attack speed bonus and a 20% more damage multiplier. The rest of my sockets is used for defensive mechanics. The compulsory cast with damage taken setup is consisting out of temporal chains for 40% longer stun duration and slowing down scary packs and bosses. One could also use Warlord's Mark for bonus stun duration and endurance charge generation, but I like the slow from temp chain a lot more in terms of bonus defense. The rest is Molten Shell for bonus armor and the good old Immortal Call. The last 3 sockets are used for the counterattack Vengeance, linked with endurance charge on melee stun and melee physical damage. Pretty straightforward, generating endurance charges passively. The helm, body armor and boot slot should be mainly used for defensive stats, so focus on life, resist and armor, together with movement speed on the boots of course. Gloves ideally provide attack speed, besides the standard life, resist and armor. For belts, one can choose between a rustic sash for more DPS, a leather belt for more life, or a studded belt for more stun duration. Additionally, you can roll up to 15% stun threshold reduction, which should be pretty cheap to obtain as it's used by almost no one. On my rings, I'm focusing on flat physical damage, attack speed if possible, and then of course life and resist. If you have to choose between life and resist, I'm personally using high resist rings with no or low life, as they're cheap and allow me to get very high life on the rest of my gear, where the rolls can get a lot higher than the plus 89 on rings. The amulet should have high flat physical damage as well, but the special thing on amulets are the high stats they can provide. Our passives are lacking serious dex and intelligence, so try to compensate with a decent amulet in order to save plus 30 stat passive nodes. Now finally the weapon, our two-handed mace. There are a lot of nice leveling uniques, such as Joffrey's Baptism, which allow you to plow through the early levels quite fast for the cost of just an alchemy orb. The final goal for endgame would be a 600 to 800 physical coronal maul, which is the best endgame base with its 6% AoE implicit. But till you get really lucky crafting such a monster, the Marauder Erqui is a very good option for farming high level maps. With 400 base fizz, 70% stun duration and especially with the free level 15 increased area of effect support link, Erqui is unbeatable for its low standard price for only 4 chaos on warbands. Other unique options would be the standard Carcass Jack for its AoE, right now it's just a bit too pricey on warbands. Then of course a Belly of the Beast for more life, and lastly a new league specific unique I stumbled over yesterday, the Red Blade Trampler's Ancient Graves. They provide high armor, move speed, flat fizz and most important, more stun threshold reduction. But in the end all these uniques are fully optional and good rares will always provide you with overall better stats. For the end of this guide, I also created a custom loot filter designed for this build, highlighting the best item level 75 bases for alching your future gear while hiding all the crap. The color theme is almost unchanged, but note that this filter is only good for mapping as all blue, white items and flasks are not displayed, which you might wanna pick up in the early progression. All links are in the description below, and for more details check out the forum guide I've created. There you can find all the information given here, again written down in the same structure, with a lot more details on perfect gear setup, jewel crafting and ideal flasks to use. As always, post your questions and suggestions in the comment section below. For more Path of Exile content, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I hope you guys enjoyed and hope to see you next time.
Exiles.